Hello, Kate. I'm really looking forward to hearing how your project is going. The last time we were talking, you were going to take the children to Gilmoss Recycling Discovery Centre, which sounds fascinating and so exciting. Can you tell me why you were taking the children there?
Well, I think the knowledge of the children about the recycling and waste was quite limited, Diane. So I think to create a healthier planet, we need children to really be thinking deeply about the importance of recycling, and also the adults that are working with the children, because it's quite shocking when you go to the Discovery Centre to see that a lot of people are still not recycling waste properly, Diane. And there's huge the contamination of waste when you get there that is just spoiling the whole recycle process.
Oh, okay, that sounds awful. What do you mean by contamination?
Well, it's just people not recycling properly, Diane, so there can be fabric within the bins and just unwanted items.
So does all that contaminated rubbish end up in landfill?
It does, Diane, and it takes the workers that actually work in the Gilmoss Centre a lot of time. I think a lot of us in the community still need educating about recycling, and I think if the children are not getting that in the school or at home, they won't know much themselves about recycling, so it is really important.
So taking the children to somewhere like Gilmoss Recycling Centre, is that something that only a school could do, or is this open to any provider in early childhood?
Yeah, it's a wonderful centre. It's open to anybody, provides training for staff and educators, and
wow.
It has open days for parents and families to come along to. So I would advise anyone out there who's listening to, just go online and book your session. You'll meet a lady, Rachel, who's fantastic, and she's early years trained, so she's got great knowledge for the children in a friendly, fun atmosphere, Diane.
It sounds like just going to Gilmoss Recycling Discovery Centre is not just going to be teaching children about the recycling, but it actually will be touching on quite a lot of the SDGs that are out there as a framework for educators, whether a childminder, a nursery teacher or a room manager could use to support children's understanding about sustainability. Wow, that sounds fabulous. So tell me about what happened when you got there.
Well, it was a fantastic experience for the children to learn about waste and the importance of recycling. They explored a variety of different materials, including cardboard boxes, plastic bottles, glass bottles, paper and aluminium cans. And there were some great activities where they could sort these items.
Do you know, Kate, that sounds really interesting from an early literacy perspective. The children just hearing all of those terminologies of plastic and metal, sorting and classifying as early numeracy, it sounds like a really holistic trip that is benefiting the children from an early literacy and early numeracy perspective. Is that right?
That's right, Diane. And they also had the opportunity then to learn about the journey of recyclable materials and what happens when the bins have been collected from the curbside, from the local council bin lorries.
Isn't this exciting that you originally started this project in the garden and you've ended up at a recycling discovery centre? It's just really good when you follow the voice, the agency, the listening of the child and go where they take you, because it's taking you in a very different direction to maybe where you thought you would start.
And it's a factory, Diane, and as a child I was always fascinated with factories and conveyor belts, and through windows the children have the opportunity to watch the process. So they look at the materials being transported from the bin lorries into a loading bay, and then how they travel around the conveyor belts where they're then sorted by the different machinery. So the lighter materials are sorted by weight. There's magnetic machinery that sorts the metals.
Wow, early numeracy in action.
And a great opportunity for the children to observe workers in action. So they're looking at JCBs, forklift trucks, and all that type of work. And I didn't know, Diane, whether maybe SDG 8 might come in here. in terms of sustained, inclusive and economic growth.
Yes, definitely, because you're talking about introducing children to different trades and the language around trades, and for them to see working in reality, a real context of workers in action.
Yeah, I thought, because all these skills, Diane, are new to me, so that's why it's great having you here to guide me through these. I didn't know whether maybe SDG 12 as well, in terms of the sustainable consumption.
Definitely. And a follow-up could be obviously sort of asking the children to identify the bins on the way home, because I know that in different boroughs you have different coloured bins for different recycling. So for instance on the Wirral it's grey for recycling. What is it in Liverpool? What is it in Sefton? Are they different colours?
Yeah, I think it's brown in Sefton and blue in Liverpool.
And you've got purple bins, which we don't have on the Wirral. So again, it's having those conversations about with what's happening in the community, which is SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities.
Yeah.
Had you thought of that one, or had you thought of a different one?
No, I agree with everything you're saying, but it's great to have this conversation because, yeah, as I say, it's all new to me, so I hadn't thought of that, Diane, no.
And you know, you taking them there is actually demonstrating SDG 4, which is about quality education. You're taking them out into the community, you're allowing them to follow their thinking, to follow their voice, and it to be in a real context of being out in the world. So how did you follow up such a fabulous trip to the Discovery Centre when you got back to Everton Nursery School?
Well, we continued to use the word recycle and upcycle, and we looked around our classroom and indoor environments for anything that we could use and take outside and develop for our sensory garden. And it was just empowering for the children because they had all this knowledge, and coming back, sharing with staff and other children that didn't take part in the trip, and just being great positive role models. So for example, Diane, we have milk cartons delivered every day. So we, a whole project about, well, how can we use these milk cartons, the children washing them out themselves, peeling the labels off, and then we decided we could use them for planting flowers in as planters, or create wind chimes.
I've actually seen, on my many trips abroad, I've seen walls in schools being built with empty milk containers that were filled with sand, and then with volunteers, the children completely immersed them in cement and made a wall. I've seen as well cutting milk cartons in half and planting them, and then they were hanging on the gates and walls. You are so right. Rather than just thinking about something that can be thrown away, try to think in terms of not just recycle, but how can I reuse? And you're sounding like you're reusing these materials in fabulous and creative ways, which is really important for early childhood.
Yeah, and I think having the children there to go home and share this knowledge with the parents as well, encourage the parents to bring any recyclable materials in for us to use, is great, Diane, because it's about the children, and it's a world for the children, and we need to reduce our carbon footprint, and we need the children to be advocates of this and share it with the world. So hopefully.
So did you say that you'd use some of the recycled materials and you had created things with the children?
We've created a number of chime bars and wind chimes and musical instruments for outside, Diane. So we've used our milk cartons and the children have decorated them, but linking back to one of the girls' ideas about a rainbow. So they're all multicoloured.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
And they filled each one with different materials, beads and sand and grit and stones, so they all make different sounds when we go outside.
Oh, do you know, that is so linking to SDG 3, which is about good health and well-being. But as you said, you were developing a sensory garden, which is about listening and using all of your senses, and that activity sounds like the children have used all of their senses in a really creative way.
Well, as part of it, Diane, we were able to use our woodwork room and our investigation room, and the children use real tools when they go into the woodwork room.
Early numeracy, Kate, early numeracy.
Connecting pieces of wood together with, you know, hammers and nails, and using hand drills to pierce holes in the milk carton lid. So I didn't know if that one would fit in with SDG, you know, the gender one, Diane. About,
Oh gosh, yes. SDG 5 is about gender equality, and I think a lot of the time we tend to sort of like, without being aware of it, it's sort of like an unconscious bias that we assume that a boy is going to want to do things that are about building and hammering and drilling, and we tend to assume that girls just want to do creative things and draw pictures and do sort of much more sort of glittery type activities. But it's really important that we recognise that for STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, which is your early numeracy, that we offer these opportunities for girls to be able to become engineers and build and create that way, and that boys have an opportunity to do the creative side as well through the drawing and the colouring that we assume that just girls want to do. Sounds really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing what happens next, Kate.
Yeah, me too. So we'll meet with the children next and see where it takes us, Diane. We'll share with you next time we see you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thanks, Diane.